Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Sport here on Facebook and YouTube. And today we're going to have a bit of a natter about the F1, the Broom Broom cars and all that
Vroom.
stuff. Yes. Speaking of Broom Broom cars, another one could be on the tracks for each team potentially soon. Because today we're going to be discussing the third car debate. Should teams have a third car as part of their team? So in total, there will be 30 cars on the track. Toto Wolff, the head principal of Mercedes, is advocating for this, and in large part of the reason because he's got a promising young driver in his midst, and also there's a couple of rumours that he wants Ofcon on his team. A person that doesn't even have a team at the moment next season, despite his performances for Force India over the past year. He's still without a team, which is really weird. But this third car proposition could get him a team. I mean, Jamie, you're a big Formula One fan, been following it for many years, seeing the changes happen, the likes of the Halo and all that kind of stuff. A third car going into the grid for each team to make it 30 in total. I mean, that would make some epic starts and epic races, but it'll also be kind of quite costly for some teams as well. I mean, what are your initial thoughts really on this?
Well, straight away I'm thinking, there'll be 30 cars. Imagine 30 cars approaching the first corner of Singapore or Monte Carlo. I wouldn't like to be in the mix of that. That would be very challenging, especially for Perez. I mean, he can't get anything right on the first corner, but I like the idea. I mean, it's been talked about for a few months now, but it's now starting to... It's funny because Toto Wolff's only suggesting it because he wants Esteban Ocon at Mercedes, but he's got Valtteri Bottas as a problem because he's doing just as good, and Hamilton keeps insisting, no, he's got to be my teammate. He's working for the team. He's not like the Nico Rosberg from 2 years ago when Rosberg didn't like being number 2 and he won the World Championship because of it. So I think it's a good idea. I mean, you mentioned the Halo. It just shows that F1 is open to change.
Innovation,
and obviously you've got the new owners of Liberty Media, and there's no more Bernie Eccleston. I mean, you'll have to Google this, but there's a long list of things that Bernie wanted in F1 that never happened, which was stuff like sprinklers on the track. So if the race gets boring, you'd have a wet part of the track. It all fair.
It sounds like Mario Kart, like the team principals, like activate my wild card. Bananas everywhere.
Bananas everywhere.
You just see like a bucket drop a load of bananas on the track, and it's like, sprinklers.
You just see, for some reason, Lewis Hamilton seems to be wetter than the other drivers. Bucket load thrown at him, but
Fault button. Like the fog speeds up the duck.
Exactly.
Oh, this is get crazy. That is an idea that we need to make done.
A Mario Kart version of F1. Yet again, they did make a video game called F1 Race Stars, which was kind of like that, but it didn't work. It was a pretty shit game.
It's because it didn't have Mario in it. It's me, Mario.
Well, they did. No, there's no Italian. No, even Fisichella was in it, the Italian. But I think overall, I just think it's going to be an idea that won't happen. I think Charlie Whiting, the man from the FIA, he knows every rule in the book. He knows exactly what he's doing. He does the driver's briefing before each race. So he's done it for years. His experience says that he thinks it's a good idea, but realistically, it probably wouldn't work. And as you mentioned, the cost for the cars straight away, I mean, Force India, I think the teams that would be able to...
Some teams are even struggling to put 2 cars on the track. I mean,
exactly.
Never mind adding a third one.
I mean, if we were going 2 or 3... I think this was mentioned...
And then if you only have some of the teams doing it, then it provides an unfair advantage, doesn't it, in terms of points for constructors and all that stuff.
I think if you could do it where not all the teams had a third car, the third driver should have to be a young youth reserve driver.
You could say they could be...
But hang on, let me finish. What needs to happen is that you need to have a third driver, but what happens is any points he provides, it's just for him in the Drivers' Championship and not constructors. That I would agree with. The teams I would be able to afford is Mercedes, Ferrari, Renault. I think Force India might be able to put in a third car. Those are the obvious ones, but McLaren. I can't believe I forgot Red Bull as well. Yeah, I forgot about them too.
Toro
as well.
Rosso probably in that same bracket.
Toro Rosso. You see, this is when it wouldn't work because Toro Rosso are like, no, we're just here to produce our drivers. Because the meaning of Toro Rosso
is essentially their academy, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean the meaning of Toro Rosso would kind of be gone because it's like, well, we've got a third driver in the Red Bull team now. But there's so many young drivers that they have in the Toro Rosso program.
This third car then would put other teams then at risk of completely falling out and fading out of Formula One because they wouldn't be able to compete with the likes of Mercedes and Ferrari that could essentially have three drivers on the podium at one point.
That would be weird, wouldn't it? An all Mercedes podium, you could say, oh God, that would get boring, wouldn't it? I'd hate that. You could have that. I think it depends, really. I think if you did have it in its first year, will it be that Hamilton has the priority car, then Bottas has the second best car, and then the third best car could still be up there, but it could be, as I say,
it will certainly provide more jobs for people in Formula One as well, which is a good benefit.
But then it's more money, isn't it? You know, it's a tricky one. I think it's an idea that people would like to see because it's more cars on the circuit. I sometimes watch some of the races and think 20 cars is not enough. George Russell, the Mercedes reserve driver at the moment, he thinks it's ridiculous that there's only 20 seats available for the top motorsport in the series, and I can agree, but I've got two sides to it. My problem is with Russell and Ocon is that a lot of fans, I mean, I'm saying it, you know, Ocon not having a seat next year is ridiculous, but this is not the first time. We've had loads of drivers where they don't get a seat and they may never ever come back to F1. That's reality. That is Formula One. It's not the only motorsport in the sport. You've got IndyCar, I'm not going to say NASCAR. I don't know why that was in my mind. NASCAR.
Drive around in circles.
Exactly.
As long as you can do a left turn, you're good.
Yeah, exactly. And they still crash. But, you know, I think it's ridiculous because if you have... When you have all these racing series, there's plenty more options for them. But F1, when kids grow up, that's what they watch. So I don't think it's the end of the world. I think Ocon at some point, if there is teams out there that want him, he'll get that seat. Whether it'll be next year or not, I don't know. But it looks as though George Russell could go to Williams and Ocon could be a third driver for Mercedes. But whether or not Ocon wants to stay there in the garage week in, week out is another matter.
So another matter for this third car situation is, would there be some tracks on the calendar that wouldn't be able to accommodate the 30-car limit if it was to extend to that?
I mean, we're going back a long time now. Well, not a long time, about 10 years or so, where in F1
and also it would affect qualifying as well.
Yeah,
because there would be longer stages.
Stages. Yeah. I mean, it would be interesting, but I think a few years ago we used to have it. It was only when teams still had two cars. You had a spare car where I think, like for example, Belgium '98, David Coulthard screwed up his car and caused a pile up, but he still carried on because he had a second car to go to and drive out, and he still retired after that one. He destroyed two cars in one race. But I think, that shows that these F1 teams can get a third car in the garage. But as you say, you look at when you watch the F1 races, there's some Grand Prix where you see loads of empty garages because they're there for if any more teams decides to come into F1. I think Porsche want to be in F1 as of 2021. We don't know yet. But what I'm trying to say is that I think accommodate for them, I think it shouldn't be a problem, or they wouldn't consider this. But I don't know. I just don't know if it would work. Deep down, I don't think it'll ever happen, but I would love to see it happen.
Yeah. All right. What are your own thoughts about a third car being on Formula One teams in the future? Should it extend to 30 or should we keep it at 20? Or should we go with Bernard Eccleston's idea and just have some sprinklers on the track instead to make it more exciting?
Google it. It's a great
list. Let us know in the comment section below this video. Don't forget to like it. Subscribe for more Let's Talk Sport content. We shall see you all very soon.